to start now. So we just had at 6 p.m. an executive session to discuss real estate and litigation. The next thing is the hearing to consider the conservation easement on tax parcels 25-4-111 and parcel number 25-4-182. Anybody know what's going on now?
Do I make this make the motion, I guess? Or do you-
We need to open the hearing.
Yeah.
I'll open the hearing, introduce into the record Board Exhibit 1, which is the legal notice. Board Exhibit 2, the letter to the referee dated October 3rd, 2017. Board Exhibit 3 is the proof of publication from the referee dated October 9, 2017. Board Exhibit 4 is the resolution. For those of you that may not be familiar with this, let me read a summary prepared by my office. The board's considering an expenditure of open space funds in order to partially fund the acquisition of a conservation easement on property currently owned by 16 Years LLC. The purchase of this conservation easement was recommended by the West Vincent Township Open Space Review Board, which has been tasked with reviewing and rating the desirability of certain parcels or property rights to be acquired by the township. The conservation easement would preserve the open space on the property by restricting what can be developed there in accordance with the Open Space Act. Specifically, the conservation easement will be recorded against the property and will restrict against further development over and above the permitted 4 primary and 4 accessory dwellings, including the existing single-family residence located on the property, together with accessory structures. The township expenditure of $200,000 will be part of a funding package put together by French and Pickering Creek Conservation Trust and will include contributions and grants from various conservation organizations, Chester County and the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. So with that, I'll open the floor to the board for any questions.
I have none.
I know.
Then I'll open it to the audience for any questions or public comments. Yes, Murray. Please come up to the microphone, identify by way of your name and address, please.
Ernie Cordes, 2239 Beaver Hill Road. You had mentioned accessory structures, but you didn't limit it to a number. So is it conceivable that the whole building envelope could be saturated with building structures?
I think it's existing. Well, no, the building envelope, by way of other zoning ordinances, couldn't be saturated with the accessory structures, but I'm not sure to what extent you can put a certain number of accessory structures or not.
So what governs that?
Well, zoning would govern some of it.
Right.
I'm not sure exactly what's in the terms of the conservation easement that would also restrict that, but I'm sure there's adequate terms in there.
You're sure there's that? You
I would
guarantee?
say.
You guarantee it?
I guarantee nothing. You've known me for years, I wouldn't guarantee that the sun will come up tomorrow.
Could we call on someone else who might be able to clarify that?
Is anyone here able to answer that?
Is the mic on? There's a question.
Is anyone from the Open Space
Please.
Committee that can answer that? Please come up and identify yourself. We'll get you the answer.
Okay.
I'm Pam Brown, I'm with French and Pickering Creeks Conservation Trust, and I'm the one that is the project manager for this. Erica has a full package that describes the summary of restrictions in the conservation easement. Accessory structures are limited in number and impervious coverage, so there are very strict restrictions governing the number and the size of any of the buildings that can be put on the property under the easement. And I did provide all that to Erica today. So you'll have that.
We should make them a solicitor.
And you also have the easement. As soon as it's recorded, it becomes a public document and it will be provided.
I may not know all the answers, but I know where to find them. So with that, any other comment from anyone in the audience? Hearing none, we'll close the hearing, reconvene into the public meeting portion of the agenda. This resolution is in a position for your consideration.
Do we need a motion for that, John?
Yes, sir.
Could I have a motion to that effect?
Hey, they look like that, doesn't it?
I I move that the board pass resolution 21-2017, ratifying the expense of the open space funds for the selection and acquisition of a conservation easement on tax parcels 25-4-111 and 25-4-182 in a total amount of $200,000.
Second.
There's a second. Any questions from the audience? Seeing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous?
Good
Maybe
job,
a little
John.
slow getting some places, but we get there.
Thank you.
Okay.
Good work.
Next, we have the approval of the minutes from the October 2nd, 2017 meeting.
I move to approve the minutes from October 2nd, 2017 as submitted.
Second.
Any comments from the audience? Seeing none, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Somebody wake up Brian Curry back there?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Brian, I have to pick on you. Next is the Township Manager's Report. By the way, this is Erica Bethdorf. It's good to have her back.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. I just want to say hello again, and Brenda Elizabeth Badorf was born August 18th, 5 a.m. She's a really sweet little girl, so we're having a lot of fun, staying very busy and juggling a lot. So I'm getting reacclimated and staying really busy. I'm glad to be back. Definitely starting to get the draft budget ready, and we'll get busy with some projects. So good to see everybody. That's all I have for this evening for my report right now. Thank you.
Okay. Next, we have the bills list. Tonight's bills list that we're hopefully will approve our Township bills list in the amount of $88,652.07. The reimbursable bills list is $76,665.52. And the subdivision utility plant bills list is $16,372.35 for a grand total of $181,689.94. I have a motion to approve those.
I move that the board approve the bills list dated October 16, 2017, in the total amount of $181,689.94.
Second.
Any comments from the audience? Sarah,
What did you do to your iPad?
say that again?
What did you do to your iPad?
I slipped and fell and dropped it, and it cracked the face of it. So I had a choice of
I'm
300
glad
some.
it was hurt instead of you.
It was fixable, it just cost $118.
Thank you.
Any other comments? Seeing none, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
What's the matter with Brian tonight?
It's not over yet. Next is the Werner Pulte escrow release request.
I move to approve the Pulte escrow reduction number 2 for the wastewater treatment plant improvements at the Bruner Land Development, in a total amount of $1,406,020.
Second.
Any comments from the audience? Brian?
Brian Curry, 512 Buckers Road. The question I've got is, does this mean that they have completed the sewage treatment plant and it's ready to go into operation?
No, there's 8 conditions that have to be finished.
Sure. All right, if you want to give an update, you're here, so, yeah.
Brian, to answer your question, the sewage treatment plant went into operation this past Thursday. But there is still a balance in the escrow of $643,000 and of additional items that have yet to be completed or have yet to be requested for release. So the complete plant is not done, but the first of 3 drip fields has been approved by the DEP for operation, which is the one next to the plant. So that drip field went operational on Thursday last week.
So this means that they are no longer in the pump and hole operations?
Correct. The pump and hall has been removed.
Okay.
I confirmed today that the big red tank is gone. It's no longer there. The
I
pump
never
and hall was
even
taken
noticed.
off on Wednesday, and the
Very good.
treatment plant started processing sewage on Thursday.
Thank you.
Brian, your recommendation was for 1.1 million.
Right, 1.19. They
Okay.
requested 1,406,000.
Okay. But we should be-
We're recommending release of $1,190,791.25.
Then they'll have to rescind that motion.
Just revise your amount, Mike.
Oh, I'd like to revise the amount of the motion on the table to be $1,190,791.25.
Second.
Okay.
So, there's an awful lot of stuff not done there. This is just about this septic.
No, there's,
This is just about the wastewater treatment plant, yes. This has nothing to do with the actual building of the houses or anything else. That's a separate escrow account.
but
This
there's,
escrow release is just for the treatment plant.
I apologize, I forgot. So it's got nothing to do with the roads or the construction mud
No.
going out on the highways or any of those things. This is just about the sewage treatment. Okay, I think at the end there'll be a lot of little tidbits.
but there's some stuff that, like a fence that's in there that's part of the surrounding thing that
And
doesn't
is
make.
that, so is that why you're withholding that 300,000 is because fences and things aren't done?
There's
Correct.
different things like that, yes.
And additionally,
Could you tell us some of the other different things?
well, the different things, the main difference was some of the items we have authorized release of a less of a percentage than they asked for, because at the time of the release request, the operation hadn't started, so we could not test the equipment to ensure that the equipment is operating function, to give them 100%.
Okay.
So in most
So like
instances,
tomorrow, you could give them 100% maybe, but not when they ask for it.
the plant is not fully operational yet.
Okay, good, thank you.
And they would have to come back asking for another release.
Yes, they have to formally request another release.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Brian? And we're good on the number, Tammy, you got the?
Yes, I've got the number.
Okay, what is that number?
$1,190,791.25.
Correct. Gentlemen, we ready to vote on this? All those in favor?
Aye.
Next is a discussion on the Eagle Farms Road and South Chester Springs Road. Joe, how would you suggest we begin this tonight?
Mr. Chair, I can handle this for you if you so desire.
Well, I have trouble hearing, so I would love for you to handle this.
Okay. I know that there's a lot of people in the room here on this matter. I would ask that when you speak on this matter, that you speak politely, respectfully, and that you come up to the microphone and indicate your name and address. We don't want people just hollering in the audience. We want everyone to have the benefit of hearing what everyone has to say. Everyone will be given an opportunity to speak, but you may not get multiple opportunities to speak. So think ahead of what you want to say so that when you take the podium, you can direct your comments and all your thoughts at one time, if possible. I'd like to bring to the board's attention, there is no record, this is not a hearing, but I wanted to bring to the board's attention some correspondence that we have regarding this gate issue. The first one is from Canoni, dated October 12, 2017, signed by Brian Keatley, a traffic engineer, and that is recommending that the gate be removed. A copy of that report is available to the public. It's been on the website, and we have copies here for anyone that wants a copy. We also have a letter from the Emergency Services, signed by Jeff Kimes, Fire Chief, Ludwig Corner Fire Company, Mike Swinninger, Police Chief, West Vincent Township Police, Emily McCarthy, Assistant Chief, Euclid Ambulance Corps, dated September 14, 2017, and that letter is also asking that the gate be removed. We have a letter from Upper Euclid dated June 27, 2016, signed by Carrie Vargo, Township Manager, asking that the gate not be installed. And West Pikeland Township, dated October 10, 2017, signed by Charlie Humphreys, Chair of the Board of Supervisors, once again encouraging that the gate not be on Chester Springs Road. We'll just reference all these letters, and copies are available. Eric has made copies of these letters for anyone in the audience that wants these letters. You're welcome to have them and to read them and comment accordingly. So with that, why don't we start the public comment from anyone who has any input on this issue? Does anyone here have any input on this issue?
Yeah, I'll go first, I guess.
Come on up, please.
Mike Hemsworth, 2378 South Chester Springs Road, right around the corner from where you're going to put the stop sign in. House builder, home a lot. I've seen a lot of accidents on that road. If you stop and slow down, I mean, you're going to have people ramming into each other with a stop sign. It's just going to be people are going to get killed. There's so many accidents. You guys see the reports all the time. And that curve, you develop new pavement that's given more traction, but that still hasn't stopped people from having accidents. Numerous people have died right on that corner. And with a stop sign, it's just going to create more stoppage, and in slippery areas, they're going to ram into the cars that are stopped. Plus, opening up that gate, you're going to increase people shooting down and then taking that risk of shooting across, and other people that have gotten used to no stop sign are going to come down and T-bone people. So, in my opinion, it would be a huge mistake to put a stop sign in, and you're going to have other people say, well, you have put a stop sign in and you put signs up, and what you did here at St. Matthews has kind of worked. But at St. Matthews, everybody was used to slowing down for that bridge. And then as soon as they're past that bridge, they speed up. And at one time, there was an accident on the curves, and people were stopped on the stop area. I came up, and I had to move into the other lane to try to slow people down because they were going to slam into a 3-car accident right over the hill. It's a blind side, and as much as the traffic builds up on St. Matthews, it's going to slowly build up right at Chester Springs Road. And then there's another blind side coming downhill that people are going to fly over, and there's nowhere to go. So.
Thank you for your comments.
Yep.
Anyone else? Yes, ma'am.
My name is Annie Ewing. I live at 2211 Eagle Farms Road at the corner of Chester Springs Road. And if you don't mind, I'll read comments. My husband couldn't be here tonight, and so we put something together.
That's fine.
We would like to add our perspective to the ongoing discussion of the closure of Chester Springs Road. My husband, Larry McCauley, could not be here tonight, so I would like to read this letter. We are concerned by the misrepresentation of the history and details of the current closure of Chester Springs Road at recent township meetings. On several occasions, residents have made statements implying that the current closure was included in the approved development plan for Eagle Farms, and that reopening the road would in some way reverse a decision already made by the township. This is simply not true. The amended final plan, as approved by the township, called for the developers to install a gate at the south end of Chester Springs Road. There is no mention in that agreement or in any other plan approved by the township of closing the road. Prior to the township's request to include the gate in the developer's amended plan, we were told repeatedly by the township manager, the prior township manager, that the township had no plans to close South Chester Springs Road. In fact, before the original final plan was approved, the township supervisors denied a petition from residents to close the road. So when we were made aware of the inclusion of this gate in the amended plan, we approached the township with concern. We were told then that the road would be temporarily closed because of safety concerns at the intersection of Route 401 and Chester Springs Road. We were also told that the road would be reopened once those safety concerns were addressed. These assurances were given in multiple discussions with the Township Manager, Jim Wendelgast, and the Chair of the Board of Supervisors, Ken Miller. Some of these discussions were in Township meetings and are in the video record. In short, the decision to put a four-way stop at the intersection of 401 and Chester Springs Road and then reopen Chester Springs Road at Eagle Farms Road is not a reversal of any prior decision made by the Township, but is in fact completely in keeping with all prior decisions. Regarding the recent petition and attempt to close the road permanently and preserve historic Chester Springs Road. Historically, South Chester Springs Road has connected Eagle Farms Road to State Route 401. When I was a child here in the 50s, and even when Larry and I moved to our current address at the corner of Chester Springs Road and Eagle Farms Road in 1983, the neighborhood consisted primarily of several large farms. Over the years, all but one of these farms has been subdivided and built upon. So we understand firsthand the emotion raised by any change in the neighborhood. It is ironic that many of the people who signed the petition to preserve the historic nature of Chester Springs Road are now living in houses on those subdivided farms. We look forward to having the safety issues at the intersection with Route 401 resolved. We know there are neighbors who did not sign the petition for that very reason, the reason described by the previous speaker, because they would like to have an option not to go down the hill towards Route 401 when the roads are icy and slippery. We would love to see the stark metal gate with massive red reflectors removed from our view. We would love to recover access to the part of our property that is now made inaccessible by the gate and the guardrail. And we look forward to once again being able to travel freely through the neighborhood that we have called home for decades. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Do you want us to keep that statement?
I would have to rewrite it because it's scribbled on, but I would be happy to.
If you want to send it in, that's fine.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone have any other comments?
Hi, my name is Dave Broman. I represent the Farnhams and the Brostroms and several other neighbors along Chester Springs Road. After the last meeting, we caucused and I recommend they hire a traffic expert because there had to be a solution that worked for everybody. And that's what they did. So they brought on Jack Smythe of Bull Smythe, and he went out and took a look at it. He gave Brian McKierney, who knows personally, a heads up, so hopefully that came back to you, Joe. I gave you a call. In any event, so he came up with a plan. I'm going to distribute it because while I know that the gate needs to be removed, and it should be, I also think a cul-de-sac works, which is what was, I think, voted on in a meeting we had in April. We had a meeting April 7th and a public meeting. There were statements made about putting in a cul-de-sac. In any event, that cul-de-sac was deficient, as we all know. This one isn't. So, with your permission, I'll hand it to you.
Thank you.
Now, the question, of course, is this is not a fully engineered drawing. But I can represent to the best of Jack Smythe's ability.
There's a couple extra copies up here if anybody wants to see.
I also have a couple of 8.5 by 11s that I have to share. Those are blow-ups. Anybody interested in a copy so to follow along? Don't be shy.
Oh, it's only a handful more.
I have two. So as I indicated, this is not a fully engineered drawing, but it is to scale, obviously, and to the best of our ability in looking at the records, the area in red, which would represent the cul-de-sac, is on right-of-way, township right-of-way. Does not need any condemnation nor easement. With regard to Mrs. Ewing and the property again, that was obviously just put in there as two options. One to access the cul-de-sac, one to access Eagle Farm Road. Those are just two suggestions. We've had a chance to meet with you yet, and that would have been my preference. In any event, took a look at the letter of October 12th. Thank you for posting it on the website. I greatly appreciate it. And I've had a cursory review of it. I haven't studied it carefully. But a couple of things worth noting. I understand one of the problems we have, of course, is that the gate's there and you can't accept liquid fuels money. And obviously that's a problem. But as Brian's letter indicates, you still can't because it's only 16 feet. And if it's not 18 feet, you can't accept liquid fuels money. So this doesn't serve that purpose. So the question I have, and I think our neighbors, I think your neighbors and my clients have, is what improvements, if a cul-de-sac's not going to put in, and I don't know if it is or it isn't, what improvements are going to be made to that road to make it safe, widened, so that there can be safe pedestrian traffic back and forth with cars and horses.
And what are the neighbors, who are the neighbors that you represent?
The Brostroms, the Farnhams, and those are who I frankly have engagement letters with, but there's contributions to my piece that on the walls. I think it's up to 6 neighbors on the road, but I'm not exactly sure.
And this does not require any additional right-of-way?
That is my understanding. Again, it has not been fully engineered, Joe, but as best as we could determine, this design does not need any future.
Brian, you need one.
And you would take out the gate and put in
Yes.
a cul-de-sac?
Yes, but it would also have a rolled curb, which would permit access by, like most cul-de-sacs, permit access by fire department and emergency personnel. That's essential. But it'd be discouraged to a passenger car or even a pickup truck from going over the curb to access Eagle Farms Road.
Okay.
So what we were going to suggest is, we put the engineers together, before any final decisions made about how that road is going to be improved or not improved. Perhaps the engineers could sit down and come up with a joint recommendation.
Okay. Thank you for your input.
You're welcome. And thanks for the opportunity.
Joe, before he goes,
You might come up to the microphone.
before he goes, can I ask you a question?
No, we're not going to question people that speak.
Oh, so we're not gonna ask, what does that do about the culvert? It looks like this
You
design
can-
of the
you can
cul-de-sac
com-
is right over that.
You can comment about whatever you like. I don't want cross-examination
Oh.
of people. I don't think it's unfair to people to step up.
Okay, do you think he brought his engineer who could answer questions?
I don't know whether he did or not. What is your question?
My question is that round red circle where they recommend a cul-de-sac, where that culvert drainage goes through the,
No.
no, it's further towards. Okay, I'm gonna let Annie answer my question,
Okay.
unless you guys are curious, and then I'll ask her to answer it for everybody.
I don't know where their question is.
Can you answer that question?
It's not on the culvert. The culvert is back here.
Okay.
I got the gate was
Please. Sarah, we're moving on. Anyone else have any comments? Yes, sir.
Ron Brostrom, 2655 South Chester Springs Road. I was with the engineer when he was measuring this out.
Your engineer.
Yes, our engineer. And we used the existing stakes down there, and what are the rectangular, they call monuments? The one across the street. So those were our reference points. And we didn't take any personal land. So that's what governed the drawing. It was our engineer's opinion that this would end up being cheaper than improving the road to open the road.
Okay.
So, okay.
Thank you for your comments. Mr. Kors?
Bernie Corrs, 2239 Beaver Hill Road. I live in the opposite end of town, so I have no skin in the game but because this is an issue that I heard a lot about, I figured I better get out there, check it out, see what's going on. And a couple of things just hit me, aside from the cul-de-sac. The road itself, I didn't hear anything mentioned tonight about a road study. So if we're going to look at a road that has to be wide enough, if the gate were to be open, where you're going to have 2 semis at the worst, but 2 school buses passing side by side, box trucks, delivery trucks going side by side, is that road actually wide enough? Do we know that yet? On one side, there's old growth trees that you would never want to take down. I know there's some committee in town here that likes old growth trees and, we put up a stink about it. Also, there's the architectural, or the historical committee, and they would be concerned about that brick wall. I don't think you want to touch that. Then there's other residents that care about the 2 1/4 trees. You're never going to touch them. That would probably be pitchforks and sickles coming here to meetings. So the question is, why hasn't that been done? This seems to me to be the cart before the horse.
Thank you for your comments. Anyone else? Yes.
Jim Helm, 2563 Veronica Drive, and our property fronts, has the second most frontage on South Chester Springs Road. I think there's 2 separate issues, commingled, as Annie was saying, commingled between what happens at a gate and what happens at a corner. And a corner, of course, is a safety discussion that we've had here, and the gate got there for a couple of different reasons. I don't quite remember the history like I heard earlier. I actually have the documents, and so do you, about an amendment in 2013. So it was there by agreement at the Board of Supervisors. So the gate got there as a way.
The amendment you're talking about, say resolution?
It's 2013 amendment to the development agreement. What is the right title, Joe? You can say what it is.
I'm familiar with the resolution. I'm not familiar with any amendments.
That's fine. It's where additional development rights were provided in exchange for several other things. So you can discover that document on your own, I guess. But that's the basis for this gate, and the gate then gets inserted after that time period. But I believe that there are 2 separate issues. And I'd like the board to think about the corner first. As the one man said, the corner is a disastrous corner. You recall the Pannoni report of first quarter, available on the website. Now, even the person who sent you a letter saying open the gate also wrote how the corner was quite insufficient for a 4-way stop. Look there, see it clearly, and you've been advised at all the shortcomings of putting in a 4-way stop with advanced signs. You've been advised of the safety risk, and the other man, of course, is concerned there. I think the way to frame this is this Pannoni report in a 12-hour period said there were 3,000 cars going past this intersection. 3,000. And going the other way is 80 cars, 82 to be exact. There's been an accident a year at that corner, 1 accident a year. And I would submit to you that that's success by the board of preventing more accidents. What you'll be trading off by asking 3,000 cars in a 12-hour period, I don't know how many in a full day. Remember, this was a 12-hour study, to make a full stop at that stop sign. Not to run it, not to run into anyone, to do it perfectly at a rate less than an accident a year, because that's your run rate right now. Your run rate right now is 1 accident a year, and now by putting the stop sign in, you'll be asking the entire community to have no more than that, or your decision will be increasing the risk of bad occurrences. So I'd like you to think about it like that, in a statistical way. So that's my first comment there. Second comment has to do with the road itself. Yeah, the road is insufficient for traffic. Let me help with the measures. A local access road is supposed to be 20 feet. A connector road can be 20 or 22 by our ordinance. This road is 17 in front of my property. My property is about a quarter mile of it. It's 17 feet. A high bank to one side, and yeah, the historic tree on the other side you'd have to take out. This road is going to be difficult to make safe at 17 feet. We know how to do it as neighbors. We take the moment to wave to each other. We slow down, we pull off a little bit into the grass, say hello, and we pass each other. That's the kind of road it is. So now you're going to say, well, let's open it up as a connector road. Let's change it from local access to connector. You're not only creating risk of accidents at the corner, you're now creating a whole nother dynamic along South Chester Springs Road by opening that to connector traffic. You've changed it from a local access road to either a minor or major connector. By the definition in the saldo, you're changing it to a major connector road at 22 feet on the specifications. You're nowhere close to that. You're nowhere close to that. You're going to be feeding potentially hundreds of cars that don't currently go to that corner, all to make that corner yet even more dangerous than we are today. It's quite imperfect today. I'd like to see a better answer too, but in this decision, by opening it up and putting a four-way, you could actually be making it very easily worse. Please consider those thoughts.
Thank you for your comments. Anyone else wish to comment? Okay, hearing no comment, does the board have any comment or any motions to put on the table at this point?
I'd like to make a comment or ask a question.
Sure.
Where do we stand?
Please state your name and address for the record.
Gloria Shantz, 2415 South Chester Springs Road. I just want to know, where are you
And that's
in
what
this
we're going to
matter?
find out right now.
You're going to tell us right now?
Yes, that's what I just asked.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Does the board have any comments on this or wish to put on the floor a motion?
You ready?
Sure.
It's now up to you.
Now would be the time. Gentlemen, what's your pleasure? You have two choices.
Joe, what would be the appropriate language? Either way.
If you were to want the gate removed, you'd pass a motion to remove the gate. Since you're on the road now, you can do that. If you don't want the gate to be removed, you'd have no motion. And if you want to entertain the cul-de-sac idea, you can direct people to explore that idea.
Joe, make note that you've already voted in the cul-de-sac idea. So you say you want to entertain the cul-de-sac. That's the record as it sits today, is it not?
Well, I'll take your comment at face value. I'm not going to comment about what the record is or isn't at this point.
Okay.
Yes, sir. It's up to the board now to come up with a motion. Then I'll open it up for your input. If they have a motion.
I move that the gate at South Chester Springs Road be opened after the safety apparatus is installed along 401.
Stop sign.
Whatever they appropriate.
Okay.
Second.
Can you turn it back over to me?
Well, there's a motion on the table now.
And it's
Is
been
there
seconded.
any further comment on the motion?
And now we can open it up
Seeing
again.
none, now you can vote on the motion. I just opened it, nobody commented.
Okay. You ready, gentlemen? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. It's unanimous. I promise you this, we'll keep our eye on the traffic concerns you have, because we have those. And we think PennDOT has a game plan to monitor and to fix it. We will make sure they do, or change it again. Sarah?
Is the, sorry.
is the PennDOT game plan something more than the four-way stop we've heard about before?
Yes, it's early warning systems, different things they were talking about.
Good.
And also clearing and.
Okay, thank you.
The long-range plan is to level.
Level the banks?
Filling the dip. But that's years out.
Thank you.
Next.
The next item on your agenda is consideration
Can I
of
make one
a,
more comment? About-
Yes.
Not too late?
You have to come up with
Now that PennDOT has enters, Gloria Shawn's 2415 South Chester Springs Road. Now that PennDOT has entered serious discussion with West Vincent Township, which is apparent, I'd like to add comment to the road surfaces on Route 401 and recent alterations. I think a couple of months ago, we put some course around the curves, roadway, and I can tell you that that is a disaster, a real disaster. Route 401 is an exclusive residential road, churches and homes, no commerce whatsoever. We have more commerce using 401, and the sounds, if you can only hear them, rumbling up the hills, is a disgrace. That is a disgrace. There are only churches and homes, and yet it's not residential at all. I mean, and the trucks and the trailers and the sounds, the banging, the clanking, reverberating, and resounding of commercial trucks and trailers is atrocious. I'm telling you this for the record. Hoping something can get under control, or they can do the sides. There's been other cases in our area where they've had to remove the surfaces. The collateral noise is unnecessary and unwelcome, and we're asking, what is your plan of action in this regard when you get started?
Well, I can't answer for the other two, but it's not our road, it's PennDOT's road, and collateral noise, I don't know.
Well, we
whether-
would need your support through PennDOT to ameliorate the sounds.
The rubble strips.
Yes, is that what they have?
Yeah.
Is that what you're talking about, the rumble
It's
strips?
just a Route 100,
Okay.
your prisers, they took it all out.
Okay.
And they put just the sides.
Okay.
And that's working beautifully out.
All right, I'll talk to the chief.
Okay, thank you.
What she's gonna do, Gloria, is have the chief, our chief of police, contact PennDOT for that.
Okay, good.
on this resolution for Sutherland Avenue, I'll let Brian explain what the project is, but it's in a position for your approval tonight. The resolution before the board would call for the elimination of condition 8 of a prior amended resolution, which is the one that required toll roaders to put in the gate. So that resolution is being amended also. Brian, do you want to give a brief summary of what this project is about?
Sure. The Sunderland Avenue project that's before the board tonight for conditional approval is the reinsertion of the Sunderland Avenue connection between Carriage Home South and Eagle Farms Road, approximately 900 feet to the east of South Chester Springs Road on Eagle Farms Road. The project was submitted to our office in August, reviewed and discussed at the September Planning Commission meeting. And at that meeting, there was a recommendation for some conditions, and we passed the conditions on to the Township Board. The project is strictly to reinstall the previously approved Sunderland Avenue extension. There will be no additional homes built and no additional improvements other than the road and the culvert and the associated stormwater.
Resolution's in the position for your consideration.
I move that the Board of Supervisors approve Resolution 22-2017, additional final approval for the Sutherland Avenue subdivision for Toll Brothers.
Second.
Any questions from the audience? Jim?
Yeah, Brian, could you comment, did they adopt all the suggestions from the Wisconsin Planning Commission? Does this resolution have to do with specifications or not?
Yes, they have resubmitted plans in accordance with the planning commission recommendations with the wire culvert, so it is 60 feet. They did
Different riprap?
that inside that details of that are part of the condition approval. Those details have not been worked out yet as far as.
I don't understand what they're approving then, or up to vote to approve.
It's a conditional approval, conditioned upon addressing the last set of conditions, which were shop drawings for the riprap, which were, there's a list of conditions involved.
22-foot wide.
That's been provided. That condition is provided, 60-foot culvert length as requested by the planning commission has been provided.
Any other questions?
To answer your question, Jim, the riprap was replaced by the concrete armoring.
The concrete.
Yes, they proposed that, we just don't have the physical details of it, it's been proposed on the plan.
Any other questions? Seeing none, call for a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thanks, Brian. Number 6. Next is the revisit to the contribution to the non-uniform 457 plan from last meeting.
I move that the township set the contribution rate at 5% to the non-uniform 457 plan, funding the pension plans at the contract rate, and using state funds received with a balance due from the township of $7,627.06.
Second.
Was that anticipated in this year's budget?
It was not, but we will be okay. I did evaluate the budget. It's difficult based on when we get that contribution in and evaluating really the actuarial factors for our staff. So we've had a few staffing changes, so we'll have to take that into account. In looking at the previous few years, there was about a $6,000 contribution in 2015, so these things do ebb and flow. So it has been low for the past several years, but we'll have to account for that in this year's budget.
The uncertainty in the number, is that because you have to take what you're given by the state and then take the
Right.
police portion out first and then
Correct.
uniform them?
Yeah.
Any questions from the audience? Seeing none, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Under new business, Brothers Corner Fire Police have requested to do several events this fall.
Did we make that decision last time that we had to
Yeah,
do these?
I thought Luke gave that to you.
I think we did.
We have to do it in public meeting?
Yes.
Okay, so
Let me
the
check
manager
with
can't
Joe.
do it, okay.
Yeah.
I move that the board authorize the Brothers Corner Fire Police to attend the Emerson Road Holiday Parade, the Fire Week night at Culverts Mall, and a benefit at Douglas Township.
Second.
And is that because it has to do with workman's comp insurance?
Yes.
That has to be done?
Has to be approved by the board, so that it's covered by the ordinance.
They don't trust you to make those decisions, that's what I heard. Any questions from the audience? Seeing none, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
There's a new subdivision application for tax parcels 25-4-111 and 25-4-182. Those are for the subdivision of the 16-year parcels, I believe.
We don't have a motion for this, right?
No.
Just acknowledgement.
Just an acknowledgement, and we're going to
Correct.
send it where?
Planning Commission?
Okay. Shouldn't be, but are there any questions on it? We have another one, that's subdivision, a new subdivision application for tax parcels 25-4-102, parcel number 25-4-101.2, and tax parcel 25-4-127. That's a parcel that is down on Hollow and French Creek Road. And we're doing the same thing with this, parceling it up into 3 parcels?
It's already 3 parcels.
It's already 3? No, what are they?
They're moving the lines, aren't you?
Okay.
John.
We don't need a motion on that either?
No.
Eric, you gonna take care of getting that to where it has to go?
I will.
Next is the resolution 23-2017, authorizing the application to the Pennsylvania Assistance Program for funds towards the floodplain ordinance revision.
I move that the board pass resolution 23-2017, authorizing staff to apply to the Pennsylvania Municipal Assistance Program for reimbursement for the DCNR requirement to update the floodplain ordinance.
Second.
And what is the timeframe on the, and the amount that they normally?
We're calculating the cost associated with the development administration for this floodplain ordinance update. We're looking at, what, $7,500 right now. We can be reimbursed 50% of that. So it helps. So we're looking at that, and I'm not sure of the time frame of when we would receive those funds, but we have to have that submitted pretty soon. So.
Any questions from the audience? Seeing none, call for a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Next is public comment on non-agenda items.
Reading Fellowship Trail change order.
Oh, that's great.
We do have, Brian, if you wouldn't mind, we do have an addition, if that's okay.
Not here.
No, we had that added last minute.
Another one.
Members of the board, 2 meetings ago, you had authorized Cedarville to pursue some cost estimates for change orders to the Fellowship Trail project for the portion of the trail that is located in Upper Huron Township. We were authorized to look at 3 different options for change orders, one of which was to change the paved trail to porous asphalt. Option 2 was to change the paved trail to a porous paver system. And option 3 was to change the trail to be a grassed surface in that section. The costs associated with these change orders are as follows. To change it to grass is a deduct from the overall cost of the project of $4,305. The second option, which would be to change it to porous asphalt or permeable pavement, would be an addition to the contract of $16,200. And the changing of that scope from regular asphalt to porous paver, a porous paving system, system, will be $35,000. So before you tonight, for the board to authorize one of the 3 options for the change order.
You never bring any good news, do you?
Well, there is good news.
Option
One
1
of
is
them was
deduct.
good
Option 1 for change order number 1 would be to reduce the contract by $4,305. Option 2 would be to extend the contract, increase it by $16,200, or option 3 would be to increase the contract by $35,000.
Thank you, Brian. Yes, sir.
Let's try to do a motion first.
Probably should do the motion first.
Let's have a motion first. Hold on, that's what.
I move to approve the change order, the grass, at a savings of $4,300.
Option 1 is out.
Yes.
Second.
Okay, Sarah.
So why was it we needed this change order to begin with, since we had been talking about a stroller-friendly trail connecting Weatherstone with the Township Park?
Because the bid package that went out and all along was an asphalt trail.
Right, and so why are we changing it
This
to
is
grass?
deed restriction, no paving.
For 200 feet.
On the West Vincent Land Trust?
Portion.
It's the West Vincent Land Trust.
It's the West Vincent Land Trust owned portion?
Yes.
And they couldn't
I'm not sure, Joe, I'm not sure that they could, once it's been recorded, once you have a deed restriction on record.
We were told at the last meeting if we paid the 2,100 to a different trust, that it could be worked out.
Well, no. I'm just thinking about the original plan was stroller friendly, so it requires a fair amount of maintenance to keep grass stroller friendly. And so it's 200 feet that would have cost $35,000. Thank you. I'm sorry, is there anybody here from Parks and Rec who could speak to this?
I don't think it's a Parks and Rec issue.
Well, that's where the plan came from, the design of the trail originally, the concept came from Parks and Rec.
This is an easement issue with West Vincent Land Trust and French and Peck.
$2,100, we solve it.
Say that again?
Joe just said for $2,100, we solve it.
I think the number was 25.
2,500.
That's not correct. Can I?
Yes, sure,
To this?
Pam, come on up.
That's not the problem. The issue is there is a recorded conservation easement that was placed on that property that prohibits impervious paving. So the bid packet was awarded with asphalt without a review of the easement to realize that that restriction existed. There is not a $2,100 fee that will correct this. That's a totally separate issue when we were talking about French and Pickering holding the trail easement prior to the discovery that the bid had been awarded. So it's a recorded easement that has this restriction, and to amend the easement to increase impervious coverage is not a possibility. Okay, so that's unfortunately where we are with this, and if it's can be hard-packed, porous, anything, it can accommodate the stroller. And we were hoping that we could piggyback on the Pulte porous paving and reduce the cost for this 200 feet, and I wasn't sure if Brian was able to explore that, if that would be helpful.
I distinctly remember at the last meeting you saying that for 2,500, we can cure this issue.
No, that's not what I said.
Is that the way this
That's the way I heard it.
No, that's incorrect. The conversation had been previously when we were provided, when French and Pickering was provided with a draft easement, the suggestion was made that French and Pickering hold the easement and ask for a $2,500 stewardship.
That was the
donation.
first $2,500.
That was the $2,500, but there was
No,
not.
our last meeting, when it was brought up, you said that you could amend that easement to allow the paving of it.
That was not my intention. I
Okay.
misspoke if I said that, and I apologize. To amend an easement to add impervious coverage is impossible.
Oh, okay.
So that's what we were hoping we could reduce the cost by working with the Pulte porous paving to do the 200 feet. So I didn't know if you if you were able to explore that.
What did he say?
Pulte does not have a schedule of when they're going to be paving their portion of the trail. Paving their alleyways with porous asphalt. They have not come back with a paving schedule. They don't have a paving schedule for that yet because they have to wait till their houses are built. So they have 186 houses to build before they're putting the porous asphalt in it once at the very end, is what I've been told.
But it is something we could look at in the future when that
Potentially,
comes about,
yes.
right?
That's my understanding was the last
Potentially. But
Right.
right now, we
sorry, that's
don't have a
okay.
time frame of when that could.
That's fine, right.
Thank you, Pam. Marion.
Thank you, Pam.
This did come up at Parks and Recs 2 weeks ago, and we did say that, you know what, we may need to just do grass in between for now. But I did have a question, and it would really be for Brian. Would it be possible to perhaps in the future do a boardwalk over this?
That would be,
Boardwalk.
that's up to the easement holder, if they would permit that.
But a boardwalk would be non-pervious, correct?
Depends on which definition you want to look at.
Okay, well, maybe, we just ask the board that perhaps you keep an open mind
Right.
to the future, but I think that at Parks and Rec, we really said that we need to get this trail going, and if it meant to be grass in between, that would be fine for now, and move it forward. So thank you.
Thank you. Art?
In case you don't know who I am, Art Ewell, 972 Fellowship Road.
Could you spell that last name?
E-W-E-L-L. Okay, I can't spell in any other language, but how's that?
That's good.
All right. The last time I'd asked you about a flared end wall versus a DW wall on Fellowship Road. It's right close to the edge of the road. I never got an answer on that.
You were supposed to give me an answer.
I was.
Brian and I discussed it, I probably was, and I apologize, I got an answer.
I don't think we did.
No, we don't have
I thought we were still on the gate round,
I apologize.
Change orders.
Time out for a second, sometimes we interrupt.
we're not on public comment.
Right.
I apologize, Art. Just
Sorry.
have a seat, those are electrified right there.
Oh, okay. I'll just move back where I was.
And I'll,
It's your fault till the next, till they vote.
that's right, we have a motion for the $4,500 deduct, which was
Anybody else
option
want to
one.
comment on that?
Yeah, we were doing public comment on that part, on that motion.
Okay. Any other comments on the Fellowship Trail? And
All those.
we have three options. Option one, option two, option one was the deduct for 4305.
That's what's in the motion.
That's what the motion
That's the
is.
motion.
Second, okay. So all those in favor of that motion with the deduction of 4305 and leaving it grass?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Now, I'm going to ask Brian to comment on that box. You don't have to come up. Make Brian come up.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman, one thing I forgot to mention about the Fellowship Trail was the pre-construction meeting is scheduled for tomorrow with the contractor to start the project. The project should be starting here in the next couple of weeks.
That's very nice. But
The-
now they know what they're gonna do.
Yes. You asked about the concrete end wall. The plan is with the road department, they're going to be modifying the riprap on the side of the road to become more of a channel, and then placing some more of the riprap around that at the end to build the riprap up around that concrete end wall.
The problem with it is, Brian, where it is, if a car hits it, or a snowplow, you're immediately gonna bring the car around, put it up the bank, and flip it over. Now, I would have said that was impossible, but a lady just managed to do it over at the Hollow Road Bridge.
The road crew is also going to be placing markers at it as well. That's just where it stands right now. And then if need be, they talked about potentially modifying the top of that concrete.
Taking the corner off.
So you're going to then look at it, yeah.
Cut the corner
That was
off.
why I done a flared end wall in the first place and just cut the controversy.
Yeah, well, the flared end wall was we looked at flared end walls, and the flare became too wide to get it to fit. The flare was going to be sitting in the pavement.
Well, if you just cut it off backward, I mean, you're not getting enough water through that pipe to worry about it anyway. I'm just worried about somebody, that's a narrow part of the road, somebody coming down there, Ken runs his farm machinery up there.
So the road crew, we've discussed plan of action with the road crew.
Okay. Number two, there's a pile of millings and 2B out there on Fellowship Road. Now, when they did it, I called Mike Schneider on Friday and asked if he couldn't put some kind of a warning device or something out there, because people had actually run up on the piles. They were out on the road. Now the police, Mike, I guess he got the police to do it. They did come out and put a cone on it. And this morning, they had a great awl and a 10-wheeler out there moving the pile of millings and the 2B. Why was it put there in the first place? It certainly wasn't going to be used there.
It was probably there for the project, and they finished up the paving project today, so they cleaned up and demobilized today.
Right, but why was it down there? I mean, you have the whole horseshoe trail, why would you want to put it there? And then have to pick it up again and haul it somewhere? I don't know where it was hauled to. No, okay.
That would be a question for the contractor.
All right. And then the other thing I wanted to ask, the road crew was out today putting millings alongside the road. All right? Doesn't the road contractor generally do that? I don't know if it was in the plans or
It
not.
was not in the contract. That was for the road crew to do to keep the cost down.
Okay? Because when I went to look at the plans, Tammy couldn't find them in the office because there were probably addendums to them or something like that, so I was
It
told.
was just bid specification to do the road as was, and then the township road crew was part of their list. Their project was to fill in next to the asphalt.
Well, it probably costs more for the township crew to do it, figuring their loaded labor rate and the trucks involved and what have you, than it would for a contractor with a few people out there in a regular truck, since they were doing the road. I'm just asking a question, I don't know.
Yeah. That was part of the discussion when we laid out the program for the year, was that part of the project was put onto the road crew's list instead of the bid list.
Okay.
Sarah.
Before Brian sits down. So the road crew's been filling the edge and they got like between Davis and Fellowship. But there's some places that it's about 9 inches deep or deeper. Is that gonna what kind of remediation are they gonna do there? I mean, Art's worried about somebody hitting that culvert, which I wonder why they couldn't have just turned it 90 degrees. But the problem's further along Horseshoe Trail where you can fall off the edge of that and have a wheel down 9 inches. That's a real mess.
I don't believe they finished their work yet on Horseshoe.
I saw on Facebook today that they were done. It's a paving, but.
The contractor finished their portion of paving today. The road crew will be working, and I'm sure it's probably the next, I don't know how many days, they will be working their way. They started at Davis and they're working their way out to St. Matthews to finish the project. But the contractor finished their contract today, which is all the paving and the sealing of the driveways, the sealing of the inlets, the sealing of all the joints, was all completed today.
That's good. But, so now we've got, our road crew has to do all of that. I mean, I guess I'm wondering why we don't put that in the bid package to have I mean, they raised the road bed significantly.
You should look at Black Horse Road.
Don't say that.
Come over to my neighborhood, Sarah.
Okay. So maybe they'll send the road crew over there next.
They did it. $205,000, they already did it.
Brian, her question was, should we add that to the bid next time?
It can be added to the bid next time, yes. There was the decision made this year to not add to the bid for balancing costs.
And like you said, they're not done yet. Done. Any other questions? Jim?
Yep. Oh, not on this topic, though.
No, that's open.
Well, you're next.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I wanted to voice concern and actually disappointment about the trails over in Eagle Farms 1, Eagle Farms 2, and the South Down subdivision. Now, it was December of last year where we said, okay, let's go ahead and release the money and we'll get the trail done over in South Down. I was making management aware of the non-fulfillment in Eagle Farms 1 and Eagle Farms 2. We're almost up to a year. Now, we set a goal that we'd get South Down done by summer. Well, last day of summer's past us. We set a goal we'd get Lennar done by summer. Well, it's past us. The only thing I can tell that's happened is we've marked some trees. Only in one subdivision. I walked Lennar, I don't see anything going on there. And since our last conversation before the beginning of the summer, where we were talking about Eagle Farms 1, we said, well, we could always, it is the rights, Joe said it is the rights of the township to use our easement and get that done. I've seen no progress in Eagle Farms 1. So we have 3 trails, they all connect up. It's about 5 miles worth of trails. We have the rights as a township for this. We're making no progress. A year has gone by. These are trails that should be done 5 years ago. And promises made by this board in this last year. That's my disappointment. We just, as a township, haven't gotten it done. And that's where we sit in October. We failed, we haven't finished, so I want to express that.
Thanks.
We gotta come up with a plan and stick to it.
Fox Hollow's been started. We had the road crew in there and started rough clearing, so it has taken a lot of time, I understand.
How about Eagle Farms 1 and 2?
That's been a research project among our legal team and staff, for sure.
So our legal team here?
I'm just, Rob Sebia has been talking with the solicitor for the HOA for Eagle Farms 1 on the details of that trail. On Lennar is in the hands of the developer right now to put that trail in. And I've asked on the status of that trail, and they had not completed it yet. So, and in my absence, I was checking on that, and still nothing, correct, Brian?
They have not requested inspection.
Okay.
Are you? Because we're not good at it, the three of us sitting up here. When they ask for a bond reduction, will you remember this? Promise?
Don't worry, Jim will.
Jim, I wish I could say you're right, I mean wrong.
He is right.
Anyway, any other comments from the audience? Come on down, Suzanne.
Yeah, it's a long way around.
Suzanne Roth, 1360 Schoolhouse Lane. I'd like to thank the township for installing a speed bump on my road. I've lived there for 40 years, and so it's taken a long time to get it done. It has been very helpful. I don't know how you monitor it, but I do hope you'll put a second one in and then consider putting in the humps so that you don't have to remove the little bump when snow time comes.
I want to make sure it works first and move location if it serves better.
Correct.
It's not a
Correct, and I think it has made a difference, and I also think if you put a second one in further up the road where the straightaway is, so that people don't zoom down, and then, I have to say, because the bump is there, people are now actually slowing down and letting other people pass. So we're not having those little accidents, and I want to thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Okay.
Any other comments from the audience? Bernard?
As a member of the Sustainability Committee, I just wanted to report that it appears we had a successful event. We had 38 vendors and exhibitors show up, about 225, 230 people that we were able to count. Some snuck in the back door, it was free, so it didn't matter. All the exhibitors and vendors that I spoke to were very happy and willing to come back next year. And I just want to publicly thank the committee who did a phenomenal job, and Tammy, who couldn't have done it without her. One thing that came up that kind of caught me off guard and I was a little embarrassed about, but I was asked whether this township is now 100% clean energy, renewable energy, and I said I didn't know the answer to that. I'll find out, get back to them. So what I would like to do, with your permission, is place this right here so that you'll keep your eye on the prize, and the prize is that the Sustainability Committee will now be working on the initiatives and trying to bring us to that conclusion.
I'm not sure, I'm all in favor, but I don't think this room is for that. Out in the lobby maybe, but not in this room.
Well, this is in visual, you know. So.
It is an interesting visual. Do you see any others?
Yeah, no, we start that process.
So, that's just, David, how do you feel?
Well, it's going to be plenty visible out there, but.
I'll take that. Thank you.
Jane, you had your hand up.
Jane Altman, 276 Black Horse Road. Since the subject came up,
I should just keep my mouth
I
shut
know,
sometimes.
but I was going to go there anyway since Sarah brought it up. You were talking about, worried about taking a wheel off. On Black Horse Road, you can take a car off. it is really dangerous, and the speeding just continues to get worse and worse now that Upper Eastland has also paved their end of the road. I know I had talked to the chief previously a couple times about patrolling, but nothing's been done.
I don't know why the police department objects sometimes to doing that, but I know when I've talked to the chief, he seems very agreeable. So could we monitor the speed out there?
We're also looking at one of the speed signs. We looked at that in the past.
And that would be wonderful.
Yeah, and especially because Horseshoe Trail being done as well, it's just, you have a nicely paved area, and it's, and we may be able to do it, we're looking at our budget for this year, so it's something maybe I can pass along to the board.
Because part of the problem
Yeah.
with the speed limit there is the signs that are posted are not very visible where they are posted.
There's one on Pewtown right now, and the police department commented that it's doing very well as far as helping alleviate some issues, and so it's something we could look at.
Right. And then as far as the drop off of the road with the swales that were installed, and also with some places there's 18 inches of asphalt. Can we do something about that? I know my new next door neighbor's wrecked her motorcycle in one of the swales.
Gentlemen, would you be agreeable to send Brian out or someone from his office to look at that and make a recommendation?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank
You don't need an authorization for that, do you, Brian? Very good, thank you. Give us a couple weeks and another year and a half. Let's get someone new.
Hello, my name is Bob Bowden. I live on our school road. I have something here I'd like to read to you guys that I put some consideration and thought into, maybe you guys can listen to. I want to take a moment to address the township's potential purchase of the Brinco property. I attended the sustainability fair this weekend. It was a great representation of all the efforts the township is making to reduce the development and encourage responsibility of the sustainable resources and become more green in its operations and preserve our history. However, in the various meetings throughout the summer and the fall, there have been discussions on the township buying the land that has the old barns on the Brinco property. At the last few meetings, they have explained the purchase price of $1.6 million. It includes demolition of the property of the barns for $600,000. That money is our tax dollars being spent to tear down the barns, which would easily still be used for a variety of things, such as horseback riding stables. At the last meeting, we heard about the standing offer from a resident to buy the land and use it for a farm, as it has been used for as long as my family has lived in this area, in this township since 1970. I looked at the minutes, and the summary of that offer included providing public access to the land, bathrooms, and parking lot. I don't understand why the township is considering completely emptying the open space fund to pay for something that a private resident is offering to pay for. The rules for the properties on Brinco stop owners from doing anything other than farming. So therefore, I see that there's no real risk for the township of the barns being used for something else. The only answer you've given is that if you tear down the buildings, it would be a good place for a ball field 20 or 50 years in the future. The township has other ball field properties and has talked for a long time about buying the property at the corner of Schoolhouse Lane and St. Matthews Road for another ball field. You've talked about buying that property and the two lots adjoining that instead of the barn property. That would cost about the same as the barn property. Why aren't we buying these lots, which we can use all the land? Why are we buying 72 acres? I'm sorry, I should be wearing glasses. We're talking of purchasing 72 acres when only 10 acres of it is really usable, especially when someone else has offered to buy the 72 acres and it will still be open to the public and used for trails. You're spending our tax dollars to buy land for our use, but you're not telling us what you are thinking of them of doing with the land. Why aren't we considering alternatives and saying that what you plan to do with the property? Wouldn't it be great if we could use this property as a community space, property at Schoolhouse in St. Matthews, as community space for activities such as gardening? This would get the people inside, outside involved, and we could also be an excellent example for the surrounding townships' sustainability programs. It would also get our kids out and active instead of on computers. I feel we deserve to know this intention and be a part of this discussion.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any comments, gentlemen? No. Maureen?
There's a copy for you guys to.
Thank you.
Yeah, I have some general comments about what Bob said, and then some additional comments related to the environment. And since I recently lived, I'm at 2323 South Chester Springs Road, on the other side from where the stop sign is going to be. And I do not come out and turn left because of all the accidents. Anyhow, first of all, a couple of procedural questions. And I'm going to read this because I think it's good to get it out here. At the Open Space Committee in September, the Open Space Board mentioned that it knew there was a proposal from a private landowner, or maybe Chris Peoples also, I don't know. And the board asked for the details of the proposal. And I'd ask the supervisor, actually Mr. Brown is the liaison, which means getting information back and forth, I think that question. And I believe, if I'm correct, that you had mentioned to the board that that was something that couldn't be discussed, that it was in front of the supervisors, but it wasn't something that the board could know about.
I'm not sure what you're saying, Mark.
Well, maybe make it a little more clear. The board asked you, was there a proposal for somebody to buy that? And you said that that information wasn't available to that board.
If I said that, it was because this board, sitting at this table, was still considering options. And it was not something.
So could you tell them tomorrow, could you give them a memo tomorrow, tell them exactly where they are? So the Open Space Committee, who it seems to me is a very big resource for you folks, a broad resource, that they would know what is out there.
I think when this board has determined what we're going to do, then they will know.
Well, then let me ask you a second thing. At prior meetings, John, I think that you have said that there would be a public meeting, like tonight on the stop sign. You guys made a tough decision, understand that. But there would be a public meeting to discuss the possible purchase and the offer for a private landowner or landowners, because I think there are two of them, to purchase prior to your making a decision. At the same time, I understand that another meeting, you said you'll make a decision and then have a meeting to tell people why you made the decision. Where are we on that? It seems to me we should have the Open Space Committee and the public to look at this. And I'll tell you why in a little bit more, a few more comments, but go ahead.
First off, the Dewey's representative has asked and made discussion at this board meeting. We as supervisors have kicked around and we've been offered many different things. And we've been advised that until we actually decide what to do, and when we do, it'll have to be done here, and we will then have an in-depth discussion, as long as you want, and explain our,
Wouldn't it be possibly better, and you have counsel here, to maybe do that ahead of time, rather than do it at the meeting? I mean, have a public meeting, have a committee set up with the Open Space Committee, who the information has been withheld from them.
I don't know whether that's...
Maybe that's too strong a statement, but liaison is supposed to tell them what's going on. That's what they're supposed to do.
I can't answer because I'm not on that committee, but everything rolled out at a different time. Maybe it was a timing thing, not looking to make excuses. But
Well, could the Open Space Committee today know about the two folks, Chris and Dewey, that are interested?
I only know of one.
Well, Chris Peoples has talked about what he might do.
Chris Peoples hasn't offered to write a check.
Yeah.
No, he hasn't.
Well, maybe not, but it might be nice for them to come and meet with the Open Space Committee. It's something that you folks...
He has come here and he spoke.
Okay.
But I can't make.
It's a big decision, needs to be open up, anyhow. Okay, the second thing is,
And just so the
Go ahead.
record's clear,
Yeah.
there will be no decision without public input.
I understand, but
And
why
it's
don't we have
held
the
at a
public
public
input
meeting.
at a big meeting ahead of time instead of just having it and then having a motion made? Because there's a lot of different, but let me finish, let me talk a little bit about another thing. In my business career, I worked for Johnson & Johnson, I worked for Georgia Pacific for about 40 years. Particularly the last 30 years, most of my responsibilities involved environmental things, paper mills, box plants, things like that. So I know a little bit about surprises in the environmental area. And the $600,000 for demolition of the buildings might be just the beginning. I know you've done a budget on that, I don't know how you've done that. But you said that you don't want to spend any open space funds, and you've spent a couple $100,000 tonight, until this project is over, because you never know what could happen, what cost overruns might happen. And that's true. And I can tell you from my experience that it can really, really happen. Now, I've walked that property over there, and even though maybe I trespassed a little bit. But in 2005, they did this before National Lands Trust, and I was ready to buy a property and build a house, but they didn't complete it at that time. But lots of things could happen. When you look at what they've done over there over the years, what happens if it becomes $800,000 or $900,000? I guess we'd have to find the money and spend it. But let me tell you, West Pikeland Township, where Mr. Wendelgas inherited a little bit of this when he went over there. In about 2003, West Pikeland Township decided, as many of you would know, to buy Historic Yellow Springs' theater and move their offices over there. It seemed like a great idea at the time, except they had to put a parking lot in, and they had to revamp the place, and they found mold everywhere and a new roof. In about that time, I was chairman of the trust that restored the Anselma grist mill. And I got $200,000, or the trust did, from the National Trust. And West Pikeland matched it. And at that time, they had about $2 million. Ask Jim Wendelgas. Today, there's no money. They don't have any money because they spent all that money on something, and lawsuits and things, and potential Indian burial grounds and things. So you never know what's going to happen with the $600,000. So in summary, we want to have another public meeting. It should be given to the Open Space Committee openly for them to review and discuss. This is a big thing. And if we're going to have something there 40 years from now, I'm not sure we should buy it today. Maybe we could buy something else. I don't know what else you might be able to buy. Maybe the ball fields that somebody was talking about. But let me tell you, based on my experience in the United States and some other places, $600,000 can go very, very quickly when you get surprised. And walking around over there, looking at all the, whatever might be in there, you might be surprised. So I think we just need to be very careful. And, I'm an entrepreneur, a private business person, and maybe this is something the township should not do. Thanks.
Yes, sir. What makes that property with the barns on it so beneficial to the township versus something that's open, that's ready to go, and not have to move earth and everything to make ball fields?
I can't answer for these two, but I'll give you 3 quick answers, okay? The 72-acre parcel there is going to be surrounded by 450 to 500 acres of National Land Trust, Natural Lands Trust. That's number one. You won't find that anywhere else on this property where that
That's
occurs.
great. That's why
the first thing. The second thing is, as you come off of St. Matthews Road, it's coming up, you could use that for parking without moving a shovel dirt right and left.
On which property? You mean the barn property? Or
yes,
or
the 72-acre part. And then you come up and there's a level area that could be used for parking there. Open space funds, make no mistake, that's what we're going to use. What does that mean? Does that mean we keep rental houses on there and barns, or does it mean it's open space? We're getting a grant in the amount of, what is the correct total? $950,000, okay? Now, that's 2 of the reasons. Where's my third one, Mike?
It's
Demolition. If we ever did not buy that or sold that, if we bought the 72 acres and sold it to 10 acres donut hole.
Why are we even discussing that if we have another piece of property that is ready to go, that we could use for farming, for gardens and stuff for the township, that's open, easy access? It'd be perfect for ball fields and everything. That whole strip is pretty much flat.
I don't think anybody has plans for this other than they pass a park at this point. And the reason is because it's surrounded by 450 acres of preserved land.
Well, from what I understand.
Over across the street would not have that.
But from what I understand, the property that the barns are on are still gonna be used for public access and everything, so what's
It's
the difference
privately
in
owned.
walking across the street?
But it's still privately owned.
It'll still be public access, taken care of at somebody else's expense.
Right?
And that field there, I mean, the sustainability thing, you know, the fair, that was great. There's a lot of people. I raise all my own beef, my own pork, my own chickens. I make my own hay. I am part of that. And for you, for the township to say, hey, we need to tear down these barns, when it's been a barn since I was a kid on the school bus, every day driving by there, looking at that, wishing I was doing it. And you guys are gonna tear that all down and make it a ball field? We got plenty of ball fields. Let's build gardens and do something to get people outside.
No one said anything about ball fields.
Well, that's
I mean,
what you
it's
said,
been
10,
raised for
20, 30 years down the road, but I wanna do something now. We got all these people, you build all these townhouses and everything, they don't have any property to do anything like that. I think that's a perfect thing for this township to, I mean, you've managed to mess it up there with all those townhomes. Why can't we have an open space?
You could. Are we allowed to have a disagreement?
Sure, this is America.
I disagree with you.
Okay, why would you disagree?
I think that 72-acre parcel would make the best park of any parcel I've seen.
Why are we worried about a park when we have 600 acres that's being at our access?
Well, let's go back to how we got into this. It was at least 5 years ago, Dave?
Or 15.
We were asked to, would we, as a township, put up a commitment letter to, for National Land Trust, to this, I believe the Dietrichs, correct me if I'm wrong, and their lender, to get this, bring co-ed, open space purchase done. So without us ponying up that letter at that particular time, I don't believe it was gonna happen.
Well, thank God for small favors.
Well, now we're here, and now you want us to redo the deal, when I still think that 72-acre parcel is far better than any parcel, far better.
Sorry, I tend to disagree with you.
Noted. Francis. Now I'm in trouble.
I attended almost every planning commission that the National Land Trust was involved. And I understood that the National Land Trust required us to have open space without buildings on it. Did I misunderstand that?
I believe you did.
Okay, so what are our requirements to the land trust? Because obviously they're, it's an asset to have all that open land around there, but what are we responsible for? Could we just leave those buildings there?
We can do whatever we want once we own it.
Okay, so we're not required by the land trust to tear them down?
Not to my knowledge.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? I thought someone over here had their hand up. Yes.
Different topic.
That's okay.
Can I change the subject?
Sure. Or please.
All right, so I don't, this is only like the second meeting I think I've ever been to.
Name and address?
My name is Derek Rodner. I live at 338 Black Horse Road. I'm on the other side, and that's kind of what I'm here to talk about. I wrote a letter, so I'll try and summarize though, because it's late. So I've been on Black Horse since 2001. I moved there. I'm lucky enough to live next door to my father-in-law, so I've got family built in. I built the house there knowing that it's a dirt road, and I love the dirt road, and I don't want it to go away. But about a month ago, the road crew came through and tried to grade it and do some work on it. We had the worst dust we've ever had. My house is 100 feet from the road. My vegetables and plants, 200 feet beyond that, were covered in dust. It was so bad that I told my kids they couldn't be outside during that high time when all the cars were going through. So I did a little bit of research, and I'll read real quickly, and hopefully I'll be quick for everybody. So I apologize in advance.
We ordered the rain, so it wouldn't.
Okay. All right. So I apologize to you for keeping you late. So the dust isn't really, it's not just a nuisance that covers our homes, our cars, our vegetation. It's a driving hazard that restricts visibility at times. It's also a potential health issue to both people and animals, and it threatens to pollute and degrade our water quality in our local streams and ponds. This is Minnesota. Here's 2 documents you can look at on best practices for dust control. I know it's not PA, but I thought to look at what some other folks are doing. The Penn State Center for Dirt and Gravel Roads website, they say that dust in the air is a loss of the fine binder aggregates from road surfaces. Loss of these fines, as they call them, leads to other types of road distresses, such as loss of cohesion and compaction of the road fill material and reduced capacity to maintain moisture in the road fill. It's costing us, everybody in this room, taxpayer dollars, thousands of dollars potentially, because of the fact that this dust is blowing out and it's not staying on the road and compacting the road. It is the binder or glue that holds the gravel together, so stabilizing the gravel saves money for the road. The state of Pennsylvania has provided local communities with a list of dust control products that are both effective and safe for the environment. I know that's an issue. Calcium chloride is a very effective one. It can be in liquid or powder form. There are also resins, natural clays, oils, both petroleum and organic, non-petroleum, as well as other products, both commercial and not. This is the list from the Pennsylvania website for you to have. There was also a 360-page study titled Environmentally Sensitive Maintenance for Dirt and Gravel Roads, published in October 2007, written by a joint effort of Penn State University, IUP, PennDOT, PA, SCC, and PSU Center for Dirt and Gravel Roads, and sponsored by the Pennsylvania Department of Transportation, that shows that calcium chloride will save up to 80% of lost gravel and up to 50% of grading costs by reducing the frequency and magnitude of grading, reducing roadside ditch cleaning, and it saves on operating costs, fuel, and downtime. I did not print that document for you, but here's some links to it so you can have that. So they say if an average road loses 1 inch of gravel through dust every year, that's 300 cubic yards each year for each mile. And I don't know what we pay for a cubic yard of gravel, but it probably could be expensive. In addition to the dust issues, there's no curvature on that road at all. It's very flat. We suffer significantly from washboarding. A condition where the corrugation in the road is like an old-fashioned washboard. I do know what that is. This is caused by, according to the document, driving the grader too fast, which is like over 3.5 miles per hour, loose aggregate and the lack of a stabilizer, and poor crowning of the surface. They say the way to solve this is more frequent blading, but if it progresses, it becomes a bigger problem, and you need to scarify 7 to 10 centimeters and add binder and mix and reshape, which I don't think we really want to go through. And then finally, our culverts and water runoff, it continues to be a problem. Several years ago, they put in some drainage, I forget what you call them, some drainage things that splits between my property and my father-in-law's property. Those have been covered with rocks. And the way the road's been graded, water doesn't really get into those anymore because of all the stones. So what's happening is the gravel, every time they're graded, the gravel's being pushed to the side. So there's some areas where it's 18 inches deep from the water just eroding it away, and there's other areas where it's just as high on the side. And it's creating this effect where it's kind of blocking the water. The solution is not more gravel on this road. When we built our house, we put a bump in the edge of our driveway that was 8 inches above the road. The road's now above that bump. I thought that 8 inches was going to last us forever. It's completely flat. So I just wonder how much we're wasting in this process of just continually throwing more stone on it and not grading properly. There was a Cedarville Engineering Group study presented on August 31st of 2006 to this group. And they highlighted that the composition of the gravel roads in our township is kind of lacking a base course of aggregate, and that we're using a different product that's not the Pennsylvania DSA driving service aggregate that's recommended. Maybe that might be something that we're being penny wise and pound foolish. In addition, they also mentioned a piece of equipment that would go on the grader. It cost $7,000 new, I think was I don't know if you had any part in this document or not. This $7,000 thing that goes with the grader that will help reclaim that stone. That stone's ending up in my yard. And again, it's building these big walls on the side where if we could reclaim that and get it into the road, that might be beneficial. I'd really like to keep our dirt road. It's going to have dust. It's always going to have problems, but that's part of the charm of living on that road. I think paving it would be a nightmare. It's already cut through. I heard from a neighbor, I don't know how true this is, but the police nabbed somebody doing 52 miles per hour on our road. It's a cut through.
I was only doing 51.
Okay, so there you go, 51. It's already dangerous in the morning and in the evening when my kids are out there at the bus stop and it's a cut through when everything's backed up on 401. Maybe we can do something with signage, not a through street or local traffic only or something that might cut that down a little bit.
You mentioned the electronic speed thing, that'd be great. Look, I'm not here to ask for specific remediation this meeting. I'm almost done, I swear. I'm just hoping that I was able to convey some of the issues that I see that we're having, provide some resources that you might be able to look at, and maybe do an ROI analysis on this $7,000 piece of equipment versus the gravel we're using and the things that we're doing, and maybe we might be able to do something where, you know, we spend a little money to put the right stuff down on the road, and it'll save us in the long run. So, that's all I had to say. Thank you very much.
Any other comments? Art?
In reference to his $7,000 piece of equipment, I think you'll find that Ken Miller tried that a number of years ago, and it didn't work. So I don't know when it's on, but Ken had tried that. There was a piece of equipment for it, and he said it just didn't work out.
Thank you, Art. Any other comments? Sarah, is this something new?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, it's very new, John.
Okay.
I'm going to agree with you.
Go ahead.
I think you're right about the park property. Because of the slopes, because of the existing trees, it is so much more inviting than the flat fields across the road. But my question is, are you the guys who approve road closings on township roads? Did you know the road was going to be closed on Horseshoe Trail on Saturday morning? Does it come to this committee or does it go to somebody else to close the road?
I think they go to the office, they don't come to us.
So Tammy's authorizes road closings?
If a road closing is warranted for a specific reason, whether it be safety or maintenance, then
There
we have to
was
make
a
that call.
road closed sign on Horseshoe Trail at Fellowship Road Saturday morning, 9-ish.
It could have been in
And there
response
was-
to that issue.
There was a,
There was a
No, there was a-
5K race at that time. There were people going up Fellowship Road with a 5K race,
I saw.
walking and running.
I saw the sauntering, I saw the tent in the middle of Horseshoe Trail. My question is, did anybody approve that? Do we know ahead of time? Was there any notification to the neighbors that I missed?
I know none.
So,
somebody
So who put the road, what kind of road closed?
it was
Fine,
an
what?
orange road closed,
That's one of ours, probably.
or they borrowed it from somebody else. But
Well, we
it
knew
was,
the road was gonna be paved.
no,
No,
but this
no,
wasn't,
it's
this
not.
was Saturday morning.
There,
because
it's done.
Because I had talked to the paving guys on Friday, and they said they were gonna be done, and I'm going down the road, and I'm thinking, oh, good, for the first time in a couple of weeks, I can go that way unencumbered, and the road was closed. And Maury said, the kid who came over said, it's a race, and I'm looking like it's a saunter. I didn't argue with him, because he's younger.
That's different.
But you guys didn't know about it, so somebody just took it upon themselves to close the road.
Again, yes, that's
I
correct.
think Derek could do that on Black Horse, and I'll try it on Davis Lane sometime.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Back to the open space. So the bottom line is, it's going to be a closed discussion, and we're not going to have a public,
Oh, no. Oh, we
when
have
do you think
executive
that-
sessions to discuss real estate and different things and legal things. And they're in a closed door meeting. And that's the way it will be until we get some point where we're gonna focus, and then we'll bring it to the public.
We have to. We have to.
And we have had discussions here where you might not have been there, but.
I was here
Okay.
for one or two.
Yes.
For the
Name?
Blake Bowden, Art School Road, for the fields and parks, wouldn't it be better to have somewhere not surrounded by acres of woods? Because I know when I was younger, I liked to venture in the woods, and the woods around here very easily become lost in. Wouldn't it be better to have more of a residential area where it would be easier to access and kids wouldn't get lost in the woods?
I guess you can have an opinion on that, but,
Lyme disease.
I might disagree with you on that. Yes, any other non-agenda items? Last chance.
No, there's
Oh,
somebody here who wants
yes,
to
sir.
speak.
Should have closed it.
Henry Jankowski, 320 Black Horse Road. Derek is my son-in-law that lives next door to me. And what he brought up here is very true. This last 4 weeks, the dust has been so bad that I have to wash my car before I can drive it. You almost need an ice scraper to get dust off the windshield. Now, it's been bad before, but never like this. So we had to come up with some kind of material where bring a water wagon up here and wet it every day. I can't go outside, sit on my front porch. My windows are closed in my house because of the dust. And when I moved there was 4 people on that road. Now there's 23. So you see how much more traffic is on that road. Not only the people that live there, but all the utilities and everything else that comes through there. And the dust is just totally out of control.
33%, well, 30% of our roads are gravel in this township. I happen to live on one too, and I agree with you. It was the 3 weeks, the dry period, after coasting through the summer months and having no dust at all of a sudden it just really got bad.
It rained all summer long.
I mean, I even cut my grass out there and I had to wear a mask because the dust was on my front yard. When I cut the grass, I was kicking up dust like I'm driving down the road. Need some help, guys.
Well, that would be if we did all the roads, it would be in the millions of dollars, I'm afraid, to
Pave
do.
them all?
No, not to pave them, it would be in the multi-millions. I mean, it's very expensive to put linseed oil down, but we've got to look at it. And
with my asthma, it doesn't matter about the money.
Grant,
Thank you.
any other comments? Then do I have a motion to end the meeting?
You do.
In a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you all for coming.